What is up, guys? Team Yugi Feels here with another deck profile, and today we're going to be taking a look at something pretty cool, pretty spicy, but also has a pretty solid amount of competitive viability. So before we jump into it, if you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you turn on the notification bell after you smash that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and don't forget to tell me how you're doing in the comment section. But let's go ahead and hop right on into this. All right, so today we're looking at an Infernoid variation. This is a really cool deck, honestly. I think it does have a lot of competitive viability considering the current state of the meta. I really enjoy the deck, which is nice too. I've been playing Infernoid for a very long time, actually since it first released. And overall, the deck is just something that people don't expect. People really just, they struggle to play against it sometimes, and that's pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and start with the main deck here. Starting off with our big Infernoids, we have 2 Anunku and 2 Deviati. So Anunku is basically a dark hole, and your Deviati is like a Harpy's Feather Dust or Heavy Storm kind of thing. The other cool thing is they have opposing effects where you can negate a spell effect, or you can negate a monster effect by tributing a monster, which is pretty cool too. So basically they cover all aspects of destruction and negations, which is really neat. They're very, very big statted monsters too. I mean, you're looking at a 3k and a 29, so that's pretty good. That's really good. Then we're going to move on to the other Infernoid monsters. I play 1 Atandel and 2 Saitsamas. So Atandel is kind of like Black Luster Soldier, where, you know, it attacks and it can attack again kind of thing. Saitsamas, if it attacks at the end of the battle phase, you can banish a card in the field, which is pretty good. And unlike the Deviati and the Anunku, which have monster and spell negations, all the other Infernoids have a tribute effect to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard, which in this format is extremely relevant because you can banish a bunch of stuff that is considered to be fairly useful in your opponent's graveyard. Then additionally to that, some other Infernoids that we have that we play 1 of. We have a Sajet, which you really don't summon him very much, so I won't really go over that. It's just kind of there. It's another name. 1 Patrulia. We have 1 Harmadic. I have to kind of slide these over a little bit so it's lined up perfect. Ooh, I'm dropping the last one of here. Then we have 1 Antra. So I said I wasn't really going to go over this jet, but I guess I will. I'm just going to bring it up because this is one of the lesser played ones, so you guys can actually see and read this. So essentially what's going to happen is when it declares an attack, you banish 1 monster from your opponent's extra deck, and it's their choice, which is pretty good. Definitely pretty good. You know, you just start banishing more and more stuff, which is over time going to add up. Then additionally with that, we have the Patrulia, which is a pop for a back row. Harmadic is a pop of a monster, and Antra is a bounce of a face-up card. So they all have those same effects of tributing, except these ones are only on your opponent's turn, whereas the the Sajet is also any player's turn. But the Saitsamas, the Atandel, and the Sajet are quick effects, whereas these are all on your opponent's turn. Still very relevant, still comes up very frequently. And the last Infernoid monster that we play is 3 Decatron. Decatron essentially just dumps an Infernoid from your deck. It gains the level, not changes his level, but gains the level, so it's 1 plus whatever you send. And it also gains the effects of that monster. So the only ruling that you have to keep in mind is that for your Anunku and your Deviati, when you send them, you don't get like the board wipe with them. That just doesn't happen. You get the ability to negate, which is pretty cool. But overall, you're using this to dump more names to the graveyard. There's a pretty cool combo, which I might show in a future video. If you guys want to see me do some cool Infernoid explanations, I can definitely arrange that. If we get like at least 20 likes on the video, that'd be fantastic. Then one of the non-Infernoid monsters that we play is 1 Arima. This is because we are playing Layer of Darkness, and we want to be able to get to Layer of Darkness. The card's just really, really good. Definitely worth playing the 1 of. Then the cool special fun engine that I'm playing, I'm actually playing Dogmatika in here. So I'm playing 1 Ecclesia and 1 Fleur-de-Lis. I think that playing 1 of each of these is pretty good. If you wanted to play Maximus, you could play Maximus, but That would also require you to like play something like the Shadal engine or something along the lines of that. And I didn't want to play the Shadal engine too. So I just stuck with these, and it's working out pretty well so far. Those are all the monsters, though. Don't play any hand traps. Hand traps aren't particularly a necessity in this deck. The deck just has so many cards that can activate in the course of a turn, and there's not a bunch of decks right now that are throwing up a million negates. You're seeing a couple negates or a couple interruptions, and that's it. So we'll hop on over to the spells now, though. Seeing we just saw the Dogmatika engine, it's only appropriate that we show the Nadir Servants. This card is busted. Really, really amazing card, being able to not only get something from your extra deck into the graveyard that can trigger, but also get you cards that are going to help your engine get going. So definitely worth playing 3 Nadir. Then for the Void spells, we have 3 Void Vanishment and 3 Void Imagination. These cards are fantastic, honestly. I love both of these cards. The other one that you can play is Void Apocalypse. I don't have it in the list. I thought about cutting 1 Imagination for 1 Apocalypse, but I said, you know what, it's just so much better to be playing Imagination. So I opted to stick with 3 Imagination. But essentially, Void Vanishment assists you in searching for your Void spells and traps, and Void Imagination is going to help you fusion summon. So keep in mind, those are very important cards to the deck strategy. Then we have 3 Pot of Prosperity. This card is bonkers. Absolutely love this card, especially in this deck, because the extra deck isn't your big strong point. Like, it's utilized, but it's not the be all end all. It's not like Dragon Link where you have to use the extra deck or else you lose. So you can afford to banish some cards from your extra deck and essentially get some searches off, which is also fantastic. Then I mentioned it before, we have the 3 Layer of Darkness. Turning everything into dark monsters is pretty sweet, and being able to tribute cards is also really good. This card is absolutely insane in this deck because the Infernoid monsters, their tribute abilities, if this is active, you can just tribute your opponent's monster. And because it's a cost, if you tribute a monster that would have a negation effect, they actually can't chain that negation effect because it was tributed for cost, which is ridiculous. So Layer of Darkness is extremely powerful. Then basically your special summoning material would be 3 Monster Gate and 1 Reasoning. These are pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I think that Monster Gate has always been fantastic. Monster Gate comboed with Layer of Darkness is also ridiculous because you just tribute one of your opponent's monsters. Reasoning is at 1 still for a reason. If it comes back to more than 1, to be very surprised, but I'd also be extremely excited because this deck would get a huge boost from that. Those are all the spells, though. Moving on to the traps, we have for our Void traps, just 2 Void Feast. This card basically sets you up with multiple negations, which is ridiculously awesome. Love this card so much. Fantastic card. Just overall, it's a fantastic card. And then we play 2 Dogmatika Punishment. I didn't feel like playing 3. I didn't really have room for 3 either, so we stuck with 2. And I honestly think you could get away with playing 1, but I do think that 2 is still a pretty good choice. That, however, is the main deck, so we're going to hop on over to our extra deck now. So I will kind of, run through everything and explain everything to the best of my ability. I haven't profiled Infernoids in a while, so I'm trying to explain things a little bit more for people who aren't familiar with the deck and are new to the channel. So, looking at the extra deck, we have 3 Infernoid Tiara. First thing you're going to notice is the big stats, 34, 36, which is really powerful. Now, it has multiple effects, so I'm going to bring it up to the camera a little more so you guys can see this a little better. So essentially, it needs an Onunku, a Devyati, and 1 or more Infernoid monsters. Additionally to that, it has separate effects. It has 4 effects to be exact. So basically, you send however many Infernoids with different names, and for the different names, if you have 3 or more, each player sends the top 3 cards, each player sends 3 cards from their extra deck to the graveyard. 5 or more is each player mills the top 3 cards of their deck. 8 or more is each player returns up to 3 of their banished cards to the graveyard. And 10 or more, each player sends their entire hand to the graveyard. That portion probably isn't going to happen to 10 or more. But you see how good of a card this is. This is a ridiculously good card. Big stats and everything. So very, very good. Worth playing 3, especially with the deck running Pot of Prosperity. That does come up frequently. Then we have 3 Elder Entity Entis. In this deck, this is almost a requirement because you're sending so many cards from the extra deck to the graveyard. You can actually send all 3 Entis with your Tierra, and then all 3 of these would then trigger on the same chain link when they go to the grave, which is crazy. Before Dogmatika was a thing, I would play this deck somewhat frequently, and that was one of my favorite things to do. You send the Entis, even if they negate one, they can't negate the other ones, which is pretty cool. Then we have 2 Titaniclad. This card's really, really good. Typically, one of them you're just going to banish off of Prosperity, but I wanted to have the second one as an option, just in case I decide that I have to send it again. But typically speaking, you're going to banish one off of Prosperity and work from there. Then we have a Cyframe Omega. You can actually summon this card in this deck, which is pretty crazy. You need an Anunku and either a Deviati or, I'm sorry, not Deviati, a Harmadic or a Patrulia, comboed with the Decatron. Pretty good, great card, and you can send it off with Dogmatika stuff, which is also pretty sweet. And for some Link monsters now, we have a Hida, because the Infernoids are originally fire. You can play the Dark Link. I can't remember what she's called. But there's a Dark Link too that's kind of similar. But Hida's really, really good because it just... 2 fire monsters is all you need, which is also really sweet. The Infernoids also, and I didn't mention this in the main deck. I don't know why I didn't mention it. But all the Infernoids have a summoning clause in which if the levels on your side of the field of effect monsters have exceeded 8, you can't summon them. But if you link them off, now your link monsters don't have levels, so you don't even have to worry about that clause because it just kind of helps you out. Then we play a small Nightmare package, just a Phoenix and a Cerberus, because spot removal is really important. Having the ability to utilize these is fantastic. For the Link 3 that we play is a Crusadia Equimax. So let me tell you how busted this card really is in this deck. This card single-handedly creates some wacky OTKs. So whatever it points to, it gains the attacks. So basically you would summon an Infernoid to the bottom left and to the bottom right. Now, the cards it points to can't attack. It's basically the only monster that's going to be able to attack. But after you swing with it, you can use one of your big Infernoids to tribute this and banish an opponent's card from graveyard, and then your 2 Infernoid monsters can attack again, which is crazy. So it gains these big stats, and then your other Infernoid monsters can still swing afterwards. So this card is absolutely nuts in this deck. Love this card so much. If you're playing Infernoids, definitely play this card. Fully worth it. Then we have 2 Link 4s. We have a Topologic Zeroboros. I don't think this needs an excessive amount of explanation. Infernoids do a lot of banishing, so this card is fantastic in this deck. Being able to gain a bunch of stats and additionally wipe entire fields is also very, very bonkers. Then we have 1 access code, which most people would probably guess I'm playing an access code, because any deck that I can squeeze an access code into at this point, I probably will. This card just gets huge stats. It pops a bunch of cards. It swings over Dragoon. It does everything that you need it to. That's the other cool thing about this deck that I didn't talk about or address yet, is outing Dragoon. If you have Layer of Darkness active and you have a way to tribute a dark monster for cost, then you're going to be able to play through Dragoon because it doesn't target, which is crazy. So keep in mind, this deck just has a million outs to Dragoon, which is really cool. But that is the extra deck. We're going to hop on over to the side deck. As I always state, the side deck is subjective in addition to the entire deck profile. I base it on what I think I'm going to see at my locals. Additionally to that, I also base it off of what I think is proper calls against the state of the meta. But I also, when I build the deck, try and make it as simple and easy to understand. That way people who are trying to put the deck together at least get a basis of what a skeleton of the deck would look like, and then you just pick and choose what other cards you want to change. But let's hop into the side deck here. For hand traps, we have 3 Droll. This card's really, really good against Dragon Link. Doesn't completely stop them. They can still end on something, but you can slow them down and kind of force their hand. Additionally, the card's pretty good against some other decks. It's decent against, you know, your invoked matchups. It's decent against like your Zodiac Eldritch matchups, things like that. So this card is just really, really good overall. It's always a good generic hand trap. Then I play 2 Godarla. This card is seeing a little bit of play, more so than it was before, for sure. This card is really good against Tri-Brigade because they're going to summon the barrier statue, and you're going to need an out for the barrier statue. So you just tribute over it with this, and then you can continue playing. Additionally to that, you can also just activate a Layer of Darkness, tribute their barrier statue with some effect, and then just keep on playing. So keep in mind that the Godarla is pretty sweet. Moving on to the spells that we have in the side deck. We have 3 Dark Ruler No More. Obviously, we want to get rid of those negations on boards. If you want to play droplets, you can play droplets. I think they're very interchangeable in this deck. I wanted to like put droplets in, but I said, you know what, I'll just show Dark Ruler for the video. But you can play either or. It's really up to you. If you don't have the money for droplets, then just play Dark Ruler. It's literally just whatever you think is going to be better for you. So keep that in mind. Then we have a bunch of spell and trap removal. So we'll start with the spell cards. We have 2 Lightning Storm and 1 Feather Duster. This is a pretty good engine to have. Just being able to out an entire back row is pretty significant. Additionally, like I said, Deviati wipes the back row too, which is really sweet. So you have some back row removal there. Then I play the Evenly Matched because I think that this card is just a blowout against Eldritch. They just lose so much advantage when you evenly them. So keep in mind, this card is bonkers, completely bonkers. Then the last card that we play is 1 Red Reboot, just for, you know, any other trap cards. This doesn't need a lot of explanation, though. Basically, pay half your life points and then keep playing the game. So that essentially rounds up the entirety of the deck profile. So if you guys did enjoy this, make sure you give it a thumbs up and you subscribe like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. It's a blast making these profiles. I think we're 675 or 676 subscribers, so we are still climbing, which is super awesome. I appreciate everything that you guys have done with sharing the videos. I've seen that you guys have been sharing them frequently through the YouTube Studio app, so I know that you guys are doing everything you can to help me out, which I truly am grateful for. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. But as I said before, if you like the video, thumbs up, comment, don't forget to subscribe, and for right now, this is Team Yugi Feels signing out.